There is a light that's shining that's you and me.
Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Thank you so much for tuning in and excited to be here with you tonight and looking forward to a solid session. Um, I am actually on time. I actually started the broadcast on time, so that's a good thing. Um, but I want to get right into this tonight. I have not been feeling well this week at all. I am still kind of reeling a little, and I got less than 48 hours to get myself together. So I am honored to be here, but definitely not at my best. And I did not want to cancel tonight. So I got tissue. I might have to just kind of get off the screen and blow or maybe spit in my bottle. Um, just look off. Y'all will be all right. But I wanted to bring this session to you tonight. Really laid heavy on me to bring it because I've been talking to a lot of clients about grief. And I want to talk about the stages of grief, the 5 stages of grief, and of course, explain it in a way that I know will make sense to you. That's what we've been called to do. And so I know it'll make sense when we explain it. Sorry. I know it'll make sense when we explain it. And so I want to do that tonight and I want to get into this. And I've got two major announcements to make. Major announcements to make. Um, and so I'm excited to be on with you tonight. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, city, state that you're tuned in from, or country if you're not from America. All right. City, state, or country if you're not from America. And let me know where you're tuned in from. Go ahead and do that so I can shout some people out. Yeah, I'm ready to get ready to work in Atlanta as well. We're gonna be fine. We're on the way to Atlanta. The tour starts this Saturday, and I didn't I didn't think I was gonna be feeling like this going, but it's life. There's nothing you can do about it. But we're gonna be there with no excuses and ready to go. And we're gonna give you everything that we have. So it's gonna be great. Good. Terrell, Texas, Charlotte. Thank you, Richmond. Uh, just lost a friend, younger brother. Okay. Houston, Texas, Aurora, Colorado, Dallas, Washington, D.C., Michigan, Inglewood, California. Thank you, Caitlin. Charlotte, North Carolina, Canada. Thank you. What part? Very good. Charlotte, again, Smithville, North Carolina. Starting to get more people from North Carolina tuning in and tapping into this work, which is great. Ohio, Chicago, Temple, Texas, Knoxville, Tennessee. I actually need to be moving some notes around. I ain't had time to do nothing today. I've literally been bouncing from thing to thing to thing to thing. I have not packed a thing. I ain't done nothing. I'm gonna throw some clothes in the bag, and I don't even know what I'm wearing Saturday. I'm gonna just pull out some that I got and just go with it. At this point, I'm just trying to get to Atlanta. Thank you so much. Having trouble purchasing the ebook. Which ebook, Jonathan? Value system? Let me know. Let me know for sure. I hope the other one. Which one? Tell me. Ottawa. Very good. Thank you so much. No, I ain't packed a thing. Houston. I ain't even looked at my briefcase. Danville. Thank you. Pittsburgh. Glen Burnie. Lear. How did you not get your shout out? Where you tune in from? To my Kernersville. All right. Greenville, South Carolina. Orlando. Houston. Austin, Memphis, Cary, Albuquerque. Jonathan, what ebook are you talking about? Type that in the chat if you can. I'm still kind of trying to get my notes together. I want to just make sure we're on the same page. Thank you for the hat love. I've got still have beanies available. I have some in Atlanta as well. My books are closed for new clients, so I can't take any clients right now. Okay, the value system should be working just fine. I've had quite a few purchases of that today, Jonathan. And that one is linked up through Patreon, but you don't need the a Patreon account. Go to my link tree links and you should be able to click on it. It should go right there. I'm not sure why you're having challenges there, but I've had a few people purchase it today, actually. So I don't know what's going on with that, but I can definitely follow up with you, my friend. San Antonio, thank you. Alameda, Dayton, Pittsburgh. All right, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Gary, Indiana, Long Beach, uh, Stockbridge, Long Beach. Can I get the backstory on the beanie? I might go into that a little bit tonight, um, as well. All right, let me move some notes here. What is this? Why is my screen print split? What is this? Carrying on over here. I probably feel like a fish out of water because I somewhat am, though I've got okay, it is working. Thank you, April. Though I really I knew what I wanted to talk about before I actually got sick earlier. I started feeling bad Monday night. I actually did the live and something just hit me while I was on the live. It was really wild with my subscribers. Shout out to my subscribers. I want to thank you all for thank you all for your support. Those of you who subscribed via Patreon and Instagram, thank you so much for your support. We started an amazing series Monday. Somehow we got the conversation veered way left, talking about relationships and rewarding. And I'm not going to even mention what was mentioned on that live, but you just have to see the replay if you if you want it. That live went way left, and but it was just so powerful, and I enjoyed it as well. Monday was a wild time. That's all I'm gonna say. All I'm gonna say is it involved the number 3,000, and that's all I'm gonna say. It involved the number 3,000. Monday was crazy. Naomi the G said somebody got pregnant on the virtual stream. It was wild. Like it was really crazy. You gotta subscribe. It's up. Mondays are really good. We're doing series every month. And it was a time. Oh, we had a time. All right. So thank you all. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, so let me tell you what the plan is and how crazy it is. I was telling one of my site coordinators, shout out to Miss Carol Mangum. She's a site coordinator in Atlanta and has done a solid has done a really solid job of coordinating everything there. And she was texting me earlier and telling me to make sure I get some rest. Well, I don't know what that is. I've had about 9 projects this week and I got them all done up until literally 30 minutes ago. So I've been working up to the wire. But one of the things that was on my list that I had to pull off Tuesday because I knew this was going to be a rough week feeling bad was YouTube. My goal was to start recording my goal is to start recording the Ask Me Anything videos on YouTube this week, and I got completely ill, bad. And so, since I did get sick this week, I could not get to that. So, subscribe to YouTube if you haven't already, because those videos will start rolling out next week. I'm going to probably do about 2 of those a week to start and see how that goes. And if you've got questions, you can email your question to info@zebthethird.com. That's info@zebthethird.com and put in the subject line, heal my life. All right. Subject line, heal my life. And if you don't mind me using your question and making it a video to answer your question, and they're going to be thorough answers. Many of you have asked me about a podcast. This is going to really kind of be the beginning of heading in that direction. And so these videos will be longer than 10, 13 minutes. They'll be more like 15, 20 minutes where I'm going to answer 2 or 3 questions within one video. So they'll be longer, more in depth for those of you that enjoy the long content, the stories, the analogies, things like that. So make sure you do that. Again, I've got some I've got some announcements. I'm going to save them for the end. Um, I got too much going on over here, y'all. I just really feel like a fish out of water. I ain't gonna lie. Y'all just give me a minute. Just give me 1 second. I really feel like a fish out of water. But I promise you I know what I'm doing. I've just got a lot going on. 50 times 5. And spring uh cleaning and healing. All right. If you have not already, do me a favor. I want you to support the show. The ways to support the show should be on the screen. I want to shout out my moderators tonight on all of the networks who do a really good job of moderating the comments. Of course, if you see a comment on the screen that is ignorant, I actually had somebody put a comment on one of my IG videos that said he's trying to figure out whether or not to like me or something. It's just really weird. People are weird on the internet, for real. The internet is by far one of the top 5 weirdest places in the world. And I'm just being honest with you. And so every now and then we get people that just say crazy things, but I want to shout out all of my moderators that do a really good job of monitoring the comments. If you happen to see a crazy comment, you might start to see eagles fly up the screen. There's nothing wrong with your screen. You haven't been hacked. It is a sign and a signal to Inspire Nation that we fly high above birds. All right. And so do not go back and forth in the comments with folks. Just post a couple of eagles. Our moderators are monitoring 4 lives right now at one time, or 4 channels at one time. So it's a lot of comments flying everywhere. But when they see the eagles, they know it's a problem and they shoot birds out of the air. And that's all I'm going to say. All right. And so if you see anything ignorant in the comments, just drop an eagle and we'll do that. Also, if you see any salad icons in the chat, that is because people are encouraging you to support the show. The ways to support the show should be on the screen. Let me get my backlights on tonight. I just realized they weren't on. The ways to support the show should be on the screen. And you see that salad because your support typically allows me to just have lunch. I put up a post, what was it, Monday or Tuesday, that my goal was to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner that day, to thinking it would help me feel better. And I actually did. Out of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, of the 3 days, 2 of the days I had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's a big deal for me. I mean, to actually be bragging that you had breakfast, lunch, and dinner is pretty sad. In fact, I was going over some questions that I'm going to talk about a little bit, and I realized I might have some more work to do in this physical healing space. Not from a working out standpoint, but from a rest standpoint. But it does go towards supporting me and supporting the show. And so I want to encourage you to do that tonight. And we really would be appreciative. And of course, if enough of you support the show, we will leave this live up. And this will probably be one that you will want up. All right. We're going to talk about processing grief in real time. All right. Go ahead and put the topic in the chat area: processing grief in real time. If you have not already, Atlanta, I think there are about 20 tickets left for Atlanta. Those of you that are in the Georgia area, Atlanta area, the Atlanta vicinity, the self-awareness tour kicks off Saturday. And I would love to see all of you that are in Georgia to pull up. It's going to be a solid time. And I don't care if I have to drug up and I feel like I'm flying high as a kite. I'm going to get through that 60 minutes. All right. So we're going to be there. And I can't wait to see all of you and meet so many of you for the first stop in Atlanta. Phoenix, we're on the way to you in March. And Houston, we're on the way in April. And so I can't wait to see you. And we should be announcing the next city real soon, which is Washington, D.C. And it's going to be great. And so just really appreciative of all of you. Now, processing grief in real time. Let's talk about this. Processing grief in real time is what we're going to talk about. And I need to type that. Processing grief in real time. We're going to talk about this because this is a conversation that I've had several times over the last 2 weeks, helping clients try to figure out what it looks like to process grief. And so you should have your journal. If you have your journal, I want you to go ahead and write in the upper right-hand corner the 5 areas of healing: mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, financial. Mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. Yeah, I think one's coming. And financial. Okay. Mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, financial. Nasty. Y'all will be all right. Mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, financial. All right. The 5 areas of healing. Why is this important? Because all of this is going to be talked about in the context of processing grief. And what many people don't realize, and had just a couple of amazing um, revelations with a few clients about the connection between these 5 stages of grief and the 5 areas of healing, and how, as you process grief, you end up getting into a place where you have to monitor these areas of your life to make sure that you don't allow any of them to sink to a point where they get out of control. Grief does not just impact you mentally, it can impact all kinds of different areas of your life. All right. And so this is big, and I want you to get this tonight. So I want to start here. Let me just give you a couple of things. You've written that at the top of your notebook. Of course, you're going to need some blank paper. I think I'm going to create a diagram tonight. I'm not sure, but I think I am, just to talk about the 5 stages and to put it in black and white. But I want to say a couple of things about grief, and I want to start with this and give you some things to swing out of the bat. I want you to record it in the notes, put it in your journal. You're going to be the smartest person at the water cooler all weekend. And share the video, please. Let's get the numbers up tonight. We're a little low. Let's get these numbers up to 700 really quickly. For starters, we should never tell people how long to grieve. Let's just start there. We should never tell people how long to grieve. I had to correct a couple this week. No, last week. I had to correct a couple last week that's going to allow me to share their story. It was a husband and a wife, and the wife was attempting to tell the husband how long he should grieve over a situation resulting from her behavior that caused him pain. And anytime you allow people to tell you how long to grieve, you will absolutely be in a space where you won't fully process grief the way you need to. Many people ask this then: if I can't tell you how long to grieve, or if people can't tell you how long to grieve, how long should you grieve? If I had that answer, I'd be a billionaire. I don't know the answer to how long you should grieve, and neither do you. Because there are so many different factors that go into how long a person should grieve. And they can range from a number of things up to, including, but not exclusive of, how you were raised, any unprocessed traumas, your attachment style, your history with disappointment, loss, failure, um, any other mental illnesses or challenges you may have, emotional illnesses or challenges you may have. It's a whole list and gamut of things that can determine how long you should grieve. So don't let people tell you how long you should grieve. But this is what I am going to tell you. Some of y'all ain't going to like this. You ready? If you're grieving the loss of someone and you're in a situation where your emotions are still not manageable, and you're grieving the loss, let's say, of a loved one, let's say of a breakup. Right? I don't even want to really get into examples, because then somebody's gonna say, well, what about this? Or what about this? Just take the example at face value. Let's say you're grieving the loss of a breakup and it's been 18 years and you're still crying 18 years later every single day over a breakup, and you say to me you've been in therapy for 18 years, you have not processed that grief well. Oh my God. It don't take 18 years to process a breakup. Now, I know some of y'all ain't gonna like this. Doc, you just said you shouldn't tell us how long it should take. I am going to tell you how long. I'm not going to tell you how long it should take. But what I'm also going to tell you is shouldn't take you 18 years of therapy to process a breakup. Go ahead and put it in the chat now. In all capital letters, one of my favorite words. That word is what? Levels. Come on, put it in the chat. Levels. I had a client couple come to me this week. They've been in therapy for 8 years. They set up a 3-session package. We had one session. They said, Doc, we think we may have solved it. One session. It don't take 18 years to fix every problem. And some of y'all been in counseling therapy for 18 years and you got the same problems and something's wrong. Well, then, Doc, how long is this supposed to take? I just told you, I don't know how long it's supposed to take. I just know that when you properly process grief, especially, you should be waiting 18 years to see results. And this is because everybody who's saying they're doing the work ain't doing no work.
Oh my God.
Going to therapy and just listening to somebody talk ain't doing the work.
Oh my God.
Going to counseling and just listening to somebody talk ain't doing the work.
Oh my God.
Going to hear your pastor preach on Sundays ain't doing the work.
Oh my God.
And it ain't nothing wrong with all three of them things. But you're going to have to do a little bit more than that. You're going to have to do a little bit more than that. And some of y'all just doing that and then walking around telling your friends and your coworkers, yeah, girl, yeah, bro, yeah, chai, I'm doing the work. No, you're not. You're not doing no work. No, you're not. Just sitting talking to somebody every other week and you're not applying anything, you're not doing no work. So there's levels in this. There's levels to this. Y'all, forgive me. Tonight might not be my best live. I'm about at 60%. All right. I'm just not gonna lie to you. I'm really operating on adrenaline tonight. So y'all just give me some grace. You will have heard probably better lives from me, but I'm gonna get through this. All right. So I don't know how long it's supposed to take. And there are a lot of different factors that help to determine how long it is supposed to take. But one thing I do know is that you should not be grieving things like a breakup for 18 years. Okay? So let me give you the two best ways to manage grief. I want to give you the two best ways to manage grief, and then we're going to walk through the 5 phases or stages of grief. I'm going to talk a little bit about each stage and what each stage means and how to work your way through the stage. All right? And then I'm done. Here are the two best ways to manage grief. You ready? Way number 1, self-awareness. Put in your journal. Self-awareness. If this is your first time being here, you might not know what self-awareness means. You may not know what self-awareness means. If this isn't your first time here, you know what self-awareness means. It's what? Honesty about who you are, where you are, what you're doing. Those of you that are participating in this tour, we're going to have a great talk when I come to your city, because we're going to talk about honesty, about who you are, where you are, and what you're doing. Because the reality is, the best way to bring about changes in real time when it comes to processing grief is being honest about where you are in the process. Oh, wow, Marche. I'm sorry to hear that. This is perfect. Today is my Nana birthday. It's been 4 years since I've been in shower. Wow. Absolutely praying for you, my friend. I appreciate that comment and glad you're tuned in. Self-awareness is honesty about who you are, where you are, and what you're doing. So we can process grief one way by just being honest. I had so many clients break down on me these last 2 weeks because we had conversations about grief. And for the first time, they were able to admit to me, Doc, I ain't okay. And this is for all of you single parents, super parents, super employees, super friends. You're checking on everybody else, doing all of this other stuff. And there are things that you have not processed, that you have not been honest about as it relates to how you feel about certain situations or losses that you've experienced. And I'm telling you, you ain't going to process grief without self-awareness. It ain't happening. You have to be honest. And it's okay to say you ain't okay. Let me tell you one of the phrases that I hate. One of the phrases that I hate, that I used to hear in church all the time, and I probably was guilty of saying it myself. You know a phrase that I hate, that I want y'all to stop saying, effective today? I want you to put it in the chat. Stop saying this phrase, fake it till you make it. Stop saying it. Stop saying fake it till you make it. You know why? Because it perpetuates people not showing up as the version of them that they authentically are in that moment. And you're not processing grief when you show up in spaces not being true to who you authentically are during that pain. I can't stand fake it till you make it. And we tell people that. Yeah, girl, fake it till you make it. It's gonna be all right. Just put a smile and fake it. Well, that's why you got so many fake people around you. That's why you don't even feel like your authentic self. And many of you don't even feel like you can process the grief that you're dealing with or the pain that you're dealing with because of people in your ear telling you to fake it. Y'all stop that. There is nothing admirable about acting like ain't nothing wrong with you when there is something wrong with you. I want to say this slow. There is nothing admirable about acting like there is nothing wrong with you when there is something wrong with you. Nothing admirable about that. And in fact, you become your most transparent and perhaps vulnerable self when you can embrace how you feel in any particular season. Now, let me say this. I'm not saying that how you feel at every season is always appropriate or correct, because it's not always appropriate or correct, but at least it is authentic. I'd rather you be crying, walking around crying all day because you can't process the pain that you feel, and that's your authentic you. Even if it annoys people around you, than to be walking around smiling and you one memory away from snapping and going crazy. When we operate in self awareness, what you don't realize is being aware implies that you can feel changes in real time, which means it is not abnormal to be grieving something, and some days you feel great. Other days you feel down. Some days you feel blah in the middle. Other days you feel back down again. And then you have a streak where for 3 days you feel up. I would rather you go through the emotions on that spectrum of where you are at any given time than to really be feeling down, but you walking around like you up here. And this is one of the major reasons why people are struggling to process grief. Now, I'm going to tell you something else we need to stop doing. And I'm especially talking to parents. If you're a parent and you discipline your children, especially if your children are under 18 and they are of the age of being corrected because they're under your guidance or whatever. Another thing that is terrible to do is that when you discipline a child and they feel the pain of that discipline, whether you're taking something from them, you grounded them, whatever, you fussed at them, whatever. One of the worst things you can do to a child is discipline a child and then tell them don't cry. Now, y'all ain't going to admit this, but some of us know what it's like to get a whooping. And when you got a whooping when you were little, to get hit, and then they be like, you better not cry. What? What? Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on. Hold on. You just popped me, and I'm supposed to act like you didn't just pop me. Believe it or not, when we do that to children and don't allow them to experience the pain of whatever form of correction you give, so don't y'all come in here start trolling my comments about popping, whatever form of correction you give them, if you don't allow them to feel the pain associated with that correction, they will grow up numb to pain. And then you'll be shocked at how they show up in their relationships or as parents, and they're numb to the emotions of people around them. One of the things I'm going to be announcing that's coming up, I'm going to be doing a session. And let me tell you the name of the session. And it's just, oh, I'm going to be doing a session. I'm going to be doing a session called Healing Generational Differences. This is for all of you people that's in one generation, but your parents in a different generation, your kids in a different generation, your coworkers in a different generation, and y'all bumping heads because you're in different generations and you don't see things the same, like faith and discipline and correction and ownership and honesty and admitting things and therapy. You don't see it the same. But the reality is they're not going to be the same because you're in different generations. But there are some things we can agree on, and that is it is not healthy for a person to feel the pain of grief and not be able to express it. And we think we're making the kids tough by telling them, you bet not cry. No, you're actually making them things like stubborn, uh-oh, hard-headed, bullheaded, cold-hearted. That's what we do when we don't teach. Numb. I like that one. Yes. Personal life training. I'm giving that to you. Numb. This is why some of you don't feel no emotions when it comes to people that you're connected to, and even when they do wrong by you. You have naturally been conditioned to just sweep things to the side because you weren't even given the right to cry. Oh my God. Is this making sense or no? Some of you know exactly what this is like firsthand because some of you are getting over heartbreak associated with people who were disconnected from their pain. And so their disconnection from their pain and your heartbreak that resulted in you and them breaking up or falling apart or whatever, you took their disconnection from pain as not caring, and it took your grief to the next level. Let me say this in another way. I'm going to just say this real plain. If you go through a breakup with somebody who is numb to pain, you will take their numbness to pain as not caring, when it's not that they don't care. They just don't even know how to process it. And so you'll be in a corner somewhere beating yourself down, whining, crying, falling out, can't sleep, can't eat, because this person that you were connected to, that you thought you were mentally and emotionally connected to, disconnected from you, and you thought they were hurt like you. They are hurting. They just don't know how to process it because they've never been taught or made safe to be able to process it. And you took their numbness as coldness, when in reality, it's really ignorance. Y'all support this show. I know that was a bar. Y'all, ain't nothing like having your feelings hurt by somebody who don't know how to process their emotions. Y'all, I'm starting to feel some strain. That's why I'm not worried about Saturday. Atlanta, I'm gonna be good. Y'all just give me some room. I don't want to cough in nobody's face. Once I get started, it ain't no going back. There is no heartbreak like being hurt by somebody who can't put into words or expressions how they feel, because you will take their numbness as coldness when it's really ignorance. Is this making sense? So some of you need to get some peace tonight about the people and the situations you're grieving, that you're taking personal from people who don't have the ability to process in a healthy way how they feel. It ain't personal. I want you to put those 3 words in the chat right now in all capital letters. It ain't personal. Yes, I said ain't. I got a real PhD. I got nothing to prove. It ain't personal. Put it in the chat. Thank you, Naomi. Can't wait to see you. It ain't personal. Y'all stop. You're taking the emotional detachment that other people have personal. And in most cases, unless they're just extraordinary mean people, and those people do exist, by the way, in most cases, these people just haven't been taught or given the opportunity to process their emotions. Let me tell you who really struggles with this. You ready? If you have an anxious attachment style, this is why if you are anxiously attached, You need to get to secure fast. I'm going to be talking about security coming up soon in a workshop. I'm going to give you 7 traits of most secure people. Some of you are going to have to get off this anxious wheel, because if you are attached to someone who is not in tune with how to process emotions and process their grief, and they hurt your feelings, you're going to really have problems, not only because they're going to come across as cold, but because your anxiousness is going to cause your anxiety to rise, because you're going to think you're the problem. Are y'all listening or no? Somebody said, please leave this up. Y'all support the show. Support it. I'll leave it up. The way support on the screen. I'm serious. Y'all taking this stuff personal. It's not personal. And this is why, y'all, go back to what I told you to put in the upper right-hand corner of your paper, in your journal tonight. The 5 areas of healing: mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, financial. You got to learn how to evaluate people according to where they are on each one of those levels. Not just physically and financially. You surface people. Oh my God. I'm not talking about you surface folk that just care about how people look and how much money they got. What I'm saying right now ain't gonna make no sense to you. I'm talking about those of you that want to evaluate people from a holistic perspective: mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and financially. Because if you evaluate someone and you notice that they don't have the emotional maturity or emotional connectedness to be engaged with how they feel in a healthy way, y'all gonna have some arguments, and you're gonna take their reactions real personal. And if you have an anxious attachment style, oh, you're going to wear it as if you did it. I've had people apologize. I've had clients apologize to people that have hurt them, because the people that hurt them showed no emotional response. But because they were so anxious, they took that as, well, maybe it was my fault. Let me say this another way. I have a client story it's in the queue. So the couple has agreed for me to share it. For those of you that are new here and don't read the room, as if I would share all these stories without people's permissions, is just wild to me. Anyway, there's a couple that I'm going to share a story, and it's a very riveting story that I shared this with them because he cheated on her. She's anxiously attached. He's very disassociated or disconnected with his emotions. And it's so bad. His disconnect with his emotions, her anxiety or anxiousness is so bad that when she caught him cheating and he admitted to it, it somehow ended up being a situation where she, with her anxious style, started feeling bad for catching him. Now, I know this don't make sense to none of y'all. But if you're anxiously attached, this probably makes more sense than what you want to believe. Because it's no different than you apologizing to people who hurt you. Because if you will apologize to a person who hurt you, you will also wear the behavior of a person that hurt you as if you did it. This video is going to be mind-blowing. Because I had to walk them both down some roads they'd never been. Number one, I had to teach him what it meant to be self-aware. And he learned that day. Self-awareness, honesty about who you are, where you are, and what you're doing, also includes honesty about how you feel. It also includes honesty about how you feel. And then I had to say to her, I said, listen here. Whenever you are so anxious that you allow somebody else's behavior to become your problem, you not only have an issue with your attachment style, you have an issue with your boundaries. And many of you are just like that. So if you have an anxious attachment style, you're very much a candidate of finding yourself internalizing the behavior of people who are emotionally detached. And if you find yourself internalizing the behavior of people that are emotionally attached, you might want to pause and correct your attachment style. This making sense? All right. So that's the first way, the first best way to manage grief. The second best way to manage grief is simple yet profound. Stay in the present. Put it in the chat, put it in your journal. Stay in the present. The best attachment style, secure. There are three: secure, anxious, avoidant. There are obviously derivations of avoidant and anxious, avoidant, dismissive avoidant. But the basic three that then go into umbrellas of others are secure, anxious, and avoidant. Secure is the goal. It is absolutely the goal. Stay in the present. I want to explain this. Doc, what does staying in the present have to do with processing grief? Thank you, Bronx Girl, for the question. I appreciate you and your support always. What does staying in the present have to do with processing grief? It's got a lot to do with processing grief. Because when we stay in the present, we learn how to compartmentalize and put things where they belong. Y'all do me a favor. Let's go to art class. Get a plain sheet of paper. Y'all get one. Let's go to art class. Let's do it. Get a plain sheet of paper. Why are my notes? Why does it look like my notes are erased? I know that. I know you lying. All right, there we go. Get a plain sheet of paper. Because when you stay in the present, it teaches you the art of compartmentalizing. I'm going to give you an easy way to manage grief. An easy cheat sheet, cut across the grass kind of way to manage grief in real time. I want you on a plain sheet of paper. See how I'm going to do this. Okay. On a plain sheet of paper, I want you to draw. Of course, I'm going to draw and I'll show. All right. Y'all, I ain't no artist, so please don't laugh at my art. Okay. Thank y'all in advance. Draw kind of like a rectangular thing like this. Okay. Draw kind of like a rectangular thing like this. Y'all with me? Let me give you a fast, quick, and dirty way to process grief, especially when you got multiple things you're grieving. Let me say this because I didn't say this at the beginning. Why is grief necessary, or when is grief necessary? Go back to your journal real quick. We'll come back to this. I almost left something out very important. When is grief necessary? Grief is necessary under one condition, and it's really that simple. Anytime you experience loss, you need to grieve. Record it. Put it in the journal. You're going to be the smartest person at the water cooler all weekend. Anytime you experience the loss of anything, you have a right to grieve. Grief is essential when loss occurs. The only prerequisite for grief is loss. That's it. If you lost a penny, you can grieve. If you lost a job, you can grieve. If you lost a husband, a wife, you can grieve. If you lost a child, you can grieve. If you lost weight because of illness, you can grieve. The only prerequisite for grief is loss. Okay? The only prerequisite. Now, go back to the little, whatever this thing is, oblong, rectangular, kind of rounded edges thing that I have here. Let me kind of smooth this. I don't like this. I got another sheet of paper. Let me try to, my OCD is starting to kick in a little bit. Draw that rectangular piece. Let me do this again because I want something a little bit better. Since I got to do all the showing and telling. Yeah, that's better. Here we go. Boy, I got Sharpie markers all over my desk fooling with y'all on these lives. But I love it. I'm a visual learner too. And a little better, but we're going to go with that. All right, rectangular thing. Okay, now I want you on this page to draw a line down the middle. Okay, you still hold it landscape, not portrait, landscape. Draw a line down the middle like that. Let me know when y'all with me. Draw a line down the middle just like this. Don't do that Bronx, New York girl. Don't do that. Okay, line down the middle. Now, at the top, I want you to draw two lines like that. Thank you, Ebony. I know it's better. They're trying to play me. They're trying to play me on Instagram. I want you to draw two lines like that. Okay? Yeah, this side is kind of rounded. This one isn't. This one should have been a little bit more rounded over here. See? Y'all doing this. Now y'all messing with my brain over here because now my brain is starting to get all self-conscious over there. All right. Two lines down the middle. Now, I want you on the bottom to take that far left line and go all the way to the bottom. Okay, y'all with me? Doc, what's a practical way? What's a practical way I can process grief in real time? Simple. I want you to write these steps down in your journal. We're going to come back to this in a second. Yeah, that cold got me, but we're going to get through it. We're going to get through it. So, an easy way to process grief in real time is to look at your life, and I want you to identify not the top 5 areas of your life that's bothering you. I want you to identify the top 5 areas of your life where you should be focused. So I want you to write this down as a step in your journal. When you are going through a season where you're grieving something, the loss of something, doesn't matter what the loss is of whatever it is. When you're going through a season where you are grieving the loss of something, the first thing you need to do after you've acknowledged the fact that you've lost it is I want you to write down 5 things you should be focused on right now. And I want you to put those 5 things in order from the most important thing at the top to the least important thing at the bottom. All right? 1 through 5. Okay? 5 things you should be focusing on. Yes, you just lost something, but given my life and the things that I have going on in my life, what are the top 5 things I should be focused on? Okay? Y'all with me? Now, this is what you're going to do. We're going to imagine this right here. We're going to imagine this right here to be one of those cookout plates. Ever been to a cookout plate and they give you the long plate? And that long plate's got a big compartment right here, and it's got one right here, and it's got one right here, and right here, and right here. Right? Those cookout plates got a big old compartment here, and then one here, and then here, and here, and here. Right? The number one thing in your list is going to go where? In the biggest space. Number 2 thing, choose one. one of the other spaces. 3, 4, 5. Somebody like, Doc, no, you didn't just draw a lunch tray. Y'all ain't catching where I'm going yet. This is how I explain to people compartmentalization. This is the cookout tray. You process and loss, but you got things you got to focus on. Watch. The way you get them done is by putting the things you have to focus on your plate. Putting the things on your plate that you have to focus on your plate. Watch this. And keeping them where they belong. Now, I know many of you have a problem processing grief. And watch this. I'm not going to even be deep with you. If I went to a cookout at your house, I can look at your plate and tell how you process grief. Because most of you, when you go to a cookout, in number 1, you got ham, turkey, green beans, and potato salad all in one. You got corn, hush puppies in 2, mac and cheese, collard greens in 4, black eyed peas in 3, and hot dogs in 5. And the juice from 1, 2, and 4 are flooding over into all the other plates. And that's how many of you process grief. Because when you are experiencing loss, instead of you putting things in their compartment, watch, and eating things one thing at a time, you try to tackle everything at once. The worst thing you can do when you are processing grief is to become scattered with your focus. When you're processing grief, put things on your plate. Hey, y'all, if you ain't caught it yet, this plate is what? Your life. This plate is your life. These 5 things are the priorities that you have, even though you are experiencing loss. You went through the breakup, but if you got kids, you ain't got no husband or wife, probably number 1 is your kids. You're going to put them in the biggest plate and you're going to sit them there comfortably so you can deal with them and the things that they've got going on. You probably have a job. You're going to put them in 2. You might have your health and fitness or wellness. You might put them in 4. You're going to identify just the top 5. Watch. And what are you going to do? You're going to take care of them one at a time. And when you finish with all of 2, in other words, you ain't got 5 things in one compartment. You got 1 thing in one compartment. When you finish everything in number 2, what are you going to do? At that point, you can go and see if you can put something else into and replace it. You deal with 1 thing at a time. But the worst thing you can do when you are dealing with processing loss is to literally have your focus all over your plate. Is this making sense? Y'all support the show. I'll screenshot it and put it on my story if you do. Support. Come on. Let me tell you how another way a lot of us process grief. And then I got to get into these 5 stages and hurry. Let me tell you another way many of you process grief. You don't do it like this. Some of you might compartmentalize things. You might identify the things you need to focus on, right? But then what you'll do is this. You'll be working on the thing in 3, and you'll get part of it done. You'll get a lot of it done. But then you'll get up from your seat and go and put some more stuff in 3. You ever been to a cookout with somebody who had a little tray like this and they cleaned out 4 or part of 4? They ain't even really get to the other stuff. And they got through part of 4 and they got up and put some more of 4 on there because 4 was so good. heartburn, headache, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea. That's where you're heading. That's exactly where you're heading because you're trying to process more things in that section when you haven't taken care of that session. Do one thing at a time. This is why many of you feel overwhelmed while you grieve. Because instead of you having 5 compartments, you got 20. You take your plates and treat them as if you got extra lines there, an extra line there. You divide that up and put 2 more things on there, and divide that up and put 2 more things. No, you don't need no more than about 5 things on your plate. That's all you need. Are y'all listening? I know I'm talking out of my nose. I feel it. I sound terrible tonight. I apologize, y'all. Y'all just bear with me. Is this making sense? Easy way to process grief is by just handling things, y'all, one thing at a time. Look, I've experienced the loss of my mom. I've experienced the loss of my father. I've experienced the loss of my grandmother. I've experienced the loss of my friend. Whatever loss you've experienced, acknowledge that loss and then say, you know what? Instead of trying to run around like a madman and take care of 50 million different things, what are the top 5 priorities in my life? Let me put them on my plate and let me just deal with it one thing at a time. And you're going to notice this ain't going to necessarily take the pain of grief away. We're going to get into that right now. But what this will do is this will give you the focus and the ability to focus on one thing at a time. It may not eliminate the pain, but it will give you the ability to focus on one thing at a time. And in turn, cause you not to feel overwhelmed with life because you're experiencing loss and you got all of these other things you got to do. Okay? It's about one thing at a time. This making sense? All right. We talked about that in the beginning. I see somebody asked earlier, how long should it take? Again, I can't tell you how long grieving should take. One of the first points, and you may have just tuned in late, and that's okay. One of the first points that I made tonight is that we can't tell people how long to grieve because there's a lot that goes into the dynamics of determining how long a person should grieve, right? So there's a lot to this. I can't tell you how long you should grieve. However, doing little techniques like this will help to shorten the grieving time and will also help you to learn how to be laser focused on things that will help you to be able to process the pain better. Okay. All right. Now, oh boy. I don't know why my notes keep resetting tonight. What's going on with my iPad? My iPad is acting really weird. Y'all, I got so much notes in my iPad. It's just crazy. Okay. Let's get into those 5 phases of grief. Let's get into those 5 phases of grief. Let me say one thing about this chart and being in the present. I want to say this really quickly. The downside to being in the present and focusing strong in the present is that you can become very nearsighted, right? There's obviously pros and cons to everything. And I want to say this about being in the present because you hear me talk a lot about being in the present in my content. If you're a client, you know I talk to you a lot about being in the present because being in the present is absolutely the goal when it comes to just living your life in general, but certainly when you are processing grief. But the downside to living in the present and being laser focused in the present, if you're not careful, you can become very nearsighted, which means you can be so focused on what's on this plate that you become oblivious to other things, or so focused on what's in tray number 1, right? If you ever had a plate where everything was hot, let me just explain this way. If you ever had a plate where everything was hot, but you was only focusing on number 2, if you stay there so long and you become so nearsighted, what happens to the items in 3, 4, 5, and 1? They become cold. One of the downsides to becoming so laser focused in the present, which you should be focused in the present and laser focused in the present. But one of the downsides to that is if you're not careful and still monitoring the other things on your plate, which is why I say you need 5 things there, you will become nearsighted and begin to neglect other things that need to be addressed. Okay? So I hope that makes sense. 1 second. That was a good one. Doc, that's so ghetto. Oh well. See, all this stuff that I do for y'all, I hope I feel appreciated tonight. I really need to be feeling some appreciation over here. Let me clap for myself. Woo. All right. Let's talk about the 5 stages of grief. Y'all ready? Let's talk about the 5 stages of grief. Five stages of grief. Stage number 1, denial. Stage number 1, denial. I want you to put it in the chat, put it in your notes. Oh, let's get to a diagram. Let's just put this on a diagram. Let's put this on a diagram. Let me save this one in case we post it later. Oh, I'm running out of. I need to get a bigger desk. This thing is just not. Let's go back to the old-fashioned T, the T, y'all. You know, if you tune in, you know we always do T diagrams for content. So go ahead and get you another plain white sheet of paper. Go ahead and make you a big T. Let's talk about these 5 stages of grief. Okay. Stage number 1, denial. Some of you should already be asking right now, do the stages have to happen in order? No, they do not have to happen in order. I know some people that teach people that they have to happen in order. I don't agree with that. I'm not going to get on here and tussle and go back and forth with other counselors, therapists, coaches that do their work. To each their own, do what you do. But if you ask me, the stages of grief do not have to go in order. And I'm going to make this real plain when I finish explaining all 5 of them. Okay. So let me just go ahead and throw that out there right now. Go ahead and create your T like this. Okay. Go ahead and create your T like this. On the left side, I want you to write the word stages. On the right side, I want you to write the word symptoms. And most of these are going to be very obvious. Okay. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for your kind words. Most of these are going to be very obvious. So we got 5 stages. So I need 4 lines, I believe, if my math is right. So let me just go ahead and draw 4 lines really quickly. 1, 2, yeah, we're not gonna go back and forth in the comments or otherwise with folks who believe what they believe. Go for it. This is based on my experience. I know that these stages don't go in order all the time, and I'm going to prove it and give you some scenarios to prove it. Okay. 5 lines. Go ahead and put in that top left box. Stage number 1, denial. Okay. What does denial look like? It can look like a number of things. And I'm going to just put some words over to the right that might make it make sense. Denial can look like being numb. Okay. Denial can look like being numb. Denial can look like, this is a big one here, being busy. this whole idea, let me stay busy. So sometimes when people are grieving the loss of something, they think that staying busy is processing it. Staying busy is actually a form of trying to attempt to ignore it, which is also a form of attempting to deny it. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're processing. Right? Sometimes when you see people grieving the death of someone, if you've ever visited someone's home that's grieving the death, you'll see the person that might be like the direct connection to the person who died, or the spouse or the direct caregiver or something. Instead of them sitting down on the couch and just entertaining guests, they'll be up walking around, cleaning, trying to serve food. Oftentimes those are nothing more but stages of denial. Real subtle, right? Because nobody would associate that with denial, serving people, but really it can become a mask, which is why I don't have a problem when you serve people. Serving your way through pain is a good way to process pain. Let me be very clear here. Sometimes the best way to feel better about your loss is to comfort somebody else through theirs. And that's a different word for a different day. If you want to feel better about your breakup, console a friend going through their breakup. If you want to feel better about your job loss, be there for somebody else in DC who's going through a layoff right now. Okay? So there's great value in working through pain, but there's such a thing as being busy when it comes to pain and processing losses, okay? All right? I want to give you something that I shared with a client that blew him away. I'm going to call this sitting, watch this, it on the sitting it on the shelf. I know my handwriting is weird, y'all. Sitting it on the shelf. What does that mean, Doc? One way you can see that somebody's in the denial phase of grief is when they say, you know what, I'm gonna just sit this down over here right now and I'll just deal with it later. I I have it in sight, so I know that I gotta deal with whatever it is. But I don't want to deal with it right now. So I'm gonna just set it to the side and I'll come back to it. When you sit things on the shelf as a form, as a means of attempting to process loss, what ends up happening is you get into this space that leads you more towards like procrastination. Well, you'll say, I'll get to that. I see it. I know I need to deal with it, but I really don't want to deal with it right now. I got these other things going on my plate. And oftentimes, the things that we sit on the shelf are typically things that need to be in one of these categories. So they need to be priority, but because you don't want to face it, you set it on the shelf. Why is setting it on the shelf important? Because when you set it on the shelf, it ain't out of your view, it's out of your way. Did y'all hear what I said? That was salad worthy. When you sit something on the shelf, you're not taking it out of view, you're moving it out of the way. In other words, you're attempting to get it out of your purview in the hopes that you'll be able to focus and do other things. But you want it to be in eyesight, hindsight, or no, eyesight, so that you know it's there and eventually you'll get to it. Y'all, that's a form of denial. It ain't gonna just magically disappear because it's on the shelf, and it ain't gonna magically take care of itself because it's on the shelf. Out of the way and out of sight does not mean you don't have obligation or responsibility for it. Okay? So oftentimes when people are grieving loss, they go through a phase of denial. And we know what the word denial means. I don't have any custom definitions for these words. We know what denial, well, actually, when I get into bargaining, I'm going to talk a little bit more about bargaining. We know what denial means. to act like something doesn't exist. So you might go through that stage when you experience a loss. And typically, that's the stage where you really can't accept that something is. Somebody dies. You don't really want to accept that they've died. I've heard stories of people really the death of a person not hitting them until after a funeral was over. So a person dies, there's 7 days before you have the funeral, then you have the funeral. And then when you're riding home, I've had clients tell me they were riding home in the family car and broke down for the first time because up to that time, they were in complete mental and emotional denial. Okay? Stage two, anger. Anger. Second stage of grief is anger. You might go through a period where you are angry, not only at the person or people or things involved in the loss, you may even be angry with yourself, especially if you feel like you played a role in the loss, or angry with yourself if you've allowed a loss to take place that perhaps you feel as if could have been avoided. Anger. This is a huge one. What does anger look like in terms of symptoms? Well, this is easy to tell, right? We know things like rage. I'll put rage up there, RAGE. Let me put another one up there that is an underrated symptom of anger that I've helped clients work through. That is an underrated symptom of anger. Mood swings. Mood swings. Doc, how can mood swings be a symptom of anger? I'll tell you how. Because when a person goes back and forth from being happy 1 minute to being pissed the next, happy 1 minute, pissed the next, very much up and down like a roller coaster. You guys have heard me talk about emotions being like that. Very much up and down like a roller coaster. Happy 1 minute, pissed the next. Happy 1 minute, pissed the next. The reason why that is a symptom of anger is because there's a huge part of them that really wants to feel the intensity of the loss. And oftentimes, when people swing back and forth from high moods to low moods and vice versa, there's really a preferred mood that they want to be in, but the loss is swinging them in the other direction. I don't know if I'm explaining this good. They actually want to be happy, but the loss is springing them in the direction of sadness. Mood swings, very underrated symptom of anger when it comes to 5 stages of grief. Another symptom of anger, and this is a big one, is similar to being numb when it comes to denial. But another symptom of anger might shock some of you. Shutting down. Uh-oh. This is for all of you people that experience loss and then you cut the world off. This is for all of you that experience loss, and when you experience loss, you cut the world off. Don't talk to me. You cut your phone, put your phone on do not disturb. People can't call you. People can't find you. People can't communicate you. You turn your location off. Your family don't know where you're off. You ain't talking to nobody. All of that shutdown, all that shutdown really is bottled up anger you're trying to figure out how to process.
Oh my God.
That's all it is. I had a client have a great breakthrough with me this week because she didn't realize that because she was so quiet about the loss she had experienced, the breakup she had experienced, and she found herself every moment that she could shutting down and shutting people down and not allowing herself to talk to people, not allowing people to reach out to her. She had a breakthrough moment when I said to her, that mechanism of shutting down is really a way of you attempting to process your anger about the loss. And the best thing you can do is just admit you mad. When I said to her, the best thing you can do is admit that you're mad, she bursted out crying. Y'all, she's going to let me share the story for those of you that are new here. Lord Jesus. When I said that to her, she bursted out crying. It was literally like somebody took the faucet and turned it, and the water just went crazy. Because at that moment, she had the understanding, or she understood that she had the right to release what upset her about the loss she was processing versus just shutting down and holding it in. Okay? Yeah, it is better on TikTok, but we only got 94 viewers on TikTok. I need y'all to like the video. I have 327,000 followers on TikTok and 94 viewers. I'm still shadow banned on TikTok. So y'all share the video. Okay? All right. Stage 3. Wish I could spend more time here. I did a video on this stage today. It was a very solid story. If you haven't, go check it out. On stage 3 of the 5 stages of grief, bargaining. This is a stage that many people don't even really realize or understand. Bargaining is huge. I talked about that on my video today. It was a really, really good video. A great client of mine. She's probably watching because I think she tunes in on some Thursdays. That bargaining stage is powerful because this is the stage that I call that's a terrible H, y'all. The what if. This is the what if stage where you start making out in your mind different scenarios to try to figure out what you could have done to avoid the position that you're in. You know, if I had done this, then maybe the breakup wouldn't have happened. If I had done this, maybe they wouldn't have died. If I had done this, then maybe I wouldn't have lost a job. If I had done this, maybe this would have occurred. Well, I explained in the video today, and I had to really rush and do it to keep it at 12 minutes. So what makes this phase so dangerous is that this is the phase that keeps on giving. Listen, y'all. In this phase, for every what if you play in your head, there's an emotion that comes with it. So if you say, well, what if I would have just showed up as a better wife? Then maybe they wouldn't have left. When you say that, then there's an emotion that's of guilt and an emotion of shame that's gone as 2 examples. An emotion of guilt, an emotion of shame is 2 examples that's going to accompany that thought of, if I would have just been a better wife, maybe we wouldn't have had a divorce. If I would have been a better husband, maybe we wouldn't have had a divorce. So you end up bouncing back and forth from what if to negative emotion, what if to negative emotion, what if to negative emotion, what if to negative emotion. And you find yourself in what I call an emotional loop. This is powerful, y'all, right here. An emotional loop. And you will be stuck here for a long time, as long as you stuck on what ifs. Y'all, what did I tell y'all at the beginning of the broadcast? I told you at the beginning of the live. One of the easiest ways to process grief is to stay in the present. You can't stay in the present and live in what ifs at the same time. You can't stay in the present and live in what ifs at the same time. You can't do it. It's got to be one or the other. And if you live in what ifs, you're going to be on an emotional loop, because every scenario you create in your mind that is negative, because what if scenarios will be negative, will create a corresponding emotion that keeps you going back and forth in this phase. Many people spend time in this phase, and I've even had people today. I glanced at some of the comments earlier that said, Doc, I didn't know I was in this phase of grief until you explained it. I just knew that read the comments. I'm not making this up. Several people wrote this. I just knew I was in a phase of grief where I kept playing these scenarios in my mind, replaying things that happened and things I should have done. And every time I did that, I started feeling worse. It's called bargaining. It's called bargaining. Think, let's make a deal. And every time you attempt to make a deal with yourself, to imagine things you could have done differently to stop the thing that you're grieving, it's going to bring with it a corresponding negative emotion, which keeps you in an emotional loop. No different than is what ifs, doubt. It's not necessarily, it's a good question, Tanya. It's not necessarily doubt as much as it is wandering in the past and being worried about the future or attempting to change the future. Because people that operate in what ifs are really subconsciously trying to change the past, and you can't. And as a result of that, their what ifs would make them feel better about the future. You can't dictate that either. The only thing you have control about, y'all, or control over, y'all, is the present. Okay? This makes sense? Y'all bear with me. I'm almost done. Stage 4. Before I give y'all stage 4, announcement number 1. Y'all want it now? Y'all think y'all ready for it? I don't know if y'all can handle this announcement. Stage 1. I promise you guys an ebook with a whole bunch of questions that you can ask, that you can measure a healthy connection. So I'm pleased to announce that live right now is my second ebook called 50 times 5. It's called 50 times 5, 250 ways to measure healthy connections. For all 5 areas of healing, I give you 50 questions with descriptions that you can ask others, and most importantly, ask yourself to see where you are mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially. They make great dating questions. They make great questions for your spouse. They make great questions for people you're evaluating to determine if they're going to stay in your life.
Oh my God.
Call 50 times 5. Links in the bio. Check it out. That's announcement number 1. Let's get back to the content. Doc, how you do all of this and you sick? Because I'm a machine. I'm not bragging. I probably need to get some rest. I've worked out one time this week. I worked out Monday, and I could barely get up Tuesday. No, Tuesday I got up. I got up. It was rough. But Wednesday was the morning. Yesterday I could barely get up. But I still got work done. Doing that. I don't care. I sat right up there, held my head up and got it done. All right. Number 4, depression. Depression. Let's talk about depression. I need to give you the definition of this one. The last 2, I'm going to give you a definition. And I can't say that they're custom definitions. They're just simple definitions, if that makes sense. Okay? I can't say that they are custom definitions, but they are simple definitions. Depression does not mean the stuff that people talk about on the internet that y'all think y'all got.
Oh my God.
Depression in the context of the stages of grief doesn't mean the thing that is medically prescribed by a doctor that puts you on medication.
Oh my God.
Depression in the context of the stages of grief simply means 2 words: deep sadness. Thank you, Naomi the G. I try to give digestible definitions. We make this stuff too complicated in this space. It ain't that hard. Depression in the context of grief means deep sadness. That's it. So when you experience loss and you're processing grief, Remember, anytime we have grief, we're indicating loss. That means we have to process it. When you are processing loss, you're going to go through a phase of depression. And it doesn't mean the stuff that you take Zoloft for. It simply means you are going through a period of deep sadness. Now, the stuff that y'all think about, that's the medicated depression that you get medication for, the prescription for, just to show you a contrast between the two. Because I had to correct somebody on this about 3 weeks ago who thought they had medical depression because they were processing the loss of a breakup. And this is why y'all are making the pharmaceutical companies rich. I feel like cussing. Oh my God. This is why you're making the pharmaceutical companies rich, because you experience a loss, you watch a little bit of TikTok, and you think you have medical depression. Medical depression and grief depression are two totally different things. Grief depression is simply deep sadness. Medical depression is the easiest way to figure it out how you might have a problem. You ready? I can't even believe I'm telling y'all this, but I'm going to tell y'all this. You better support the show. You want to know an easy way to know you might have a problem when it comes to real depression? Is when your sadness impacts your ability to function. Y'all see how easy that is? The easiest way to understand medically prescribed depression is if you feel like you're in a deep sadness to the point where it impacts your ability to function. You can't eat, you can't sleep, you can't go to work, you can't get out of bed. Right? You can't take care of your kids. You can't take care of your responsibilities. You're not paying your bills. You're laying around. You're not cleaning your home. You become a hoarder. Believe it or not, hoarding and depression, medical depression, can almost work hand in hand. I got a video coming up soon on hoarding that's going to blow you. I had a session with a hoarder, and it was one of the most powerful moments. No. I had a session with a lady who was dealing with depression, and I connected her depression to hoarding, and she got a breakthrough on that call like I probably hadn't seen in a very long time. There's a great connection between hoarding and depression. Because when you are medically depressed, it impacts your ability to function, to move, to operate, to do the things that you need to do. Right? Notice people that hoard might even go as far, I see you, Nikki, might go as far as, like Nikki said, they might stop bathing. They might stop grooming themselves. They might stop changing clothes. That's when you get into real depression. Not the stuff y'all see on TikTok or because you had a bad day. Okay? Is this making sense? I go live every Thursday. And then every Monday for subscribers. Subscribe, Marcia. I'd love to have you. YouTube, and it's not, I'm sorry, Instagram and Patreon. Y'all forget my brain tonight. I'm out of whack. Instagram and Patreon. I go live there. All right. So y'all see the difference here? There's a big difference. Stop letting, look, I got a workshop with some kids coming up in March. I can't wait. I'm doing it for free. I can't wait. And I'm not saying that just to brag because I'm doing it for free. I'm saying that because I have a real passion for teaching kids this. Y'all got kids walking around talking about they depressed because they deeply sad. No, baby, you deeply sad. And I can't wait and get in front of these kids because you got 5, 6, and 7-year-olds walking around talking about they depressed and they need medicine. But they still getting up every day, still brushing their teeth, washing their clothes, changing clothes, doing their chores, doing homeworks. Many of them still making A's and B's. No, baby, you going through a deep sad moment. What you grieving? What you lose? I ain't trying to hurt nobody's feelings. I'm trying to stop y'all from letting doctors give you medication when you don't need it. We are overly drugged out of pure ignorance. That's the only difference, y'all, between depression related to grief and medically prescribed depression. If it impacts your ability to function, we have a problem. If it doesn't, we can deal with it. And even if it impacts your ability to function, that can be reversed too. And I like that. Raven, I hope you don't mind me saying, I shouldn't have said your name. Somebody said on YouTube, I appreciate it. She said, makes me look at my postpartum differently. I've got a video on postpartum coming up soon. Oh, you women that have gone through postpartum, y'all gonna fight me and love me at the same time when you hear that explanation. You you gonna fight me and love me at the same time when you hear me explain to a lady how this thing that she's calling postpartum was really just deep sadness that she could work through. Oh, it's going to challenge your frame with how you label things. Y'all, I don't have a problem with labels. If things don't have labels, we don't know what it is. Let me tell you what I got a problem with. We overlabel. We overlabel things, y'all. We overlabel. I don't have a problem with labels. We just overlabel. And this example of depression is a clear example. Right? So deep sadness. Let me give you two more characteristics that might go on that depression thing really quickly. This is a big one. I almost misspelled it. Ruminating thoughts. Oftentimes, one big symptom of depression is ruminating thoughts or recurring or repeating thoughts. Sometimes people don't even realize that if you're in a situation where your thoughts are just spiraling out of control, you're probably in deep sadness too. And if you're not there, you're very much on your way, which means you're in this depression stage. Thank you, CC. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, we overcomplicate this stuff and we make this stuff too sexy. It's the same problem I have with narcissists, manipulated, gaslight. Y'all using these terms when a person can have narcissistic traits and not be diagnosed in PD. They are not the same. Okay? So depression can look like ruminating thoughts. It can look like deep sadness. Watch this. It can look like unprovoked. This is an interesting one. A client and I had a really good banter about, and she really agreed. She never looked at it this way. It can look like unprovoked crying. Depression can look like unprovoked crying. Doc, isn't it natural if I just cry without any rhyme or reason or unprovoked? Depends on what it's about. But I'll tell you this from firsthand. When I was grieving one of the most challenging periods of my life about 5 years ago, I'll tell you, even when I was coming out of that grief and going into the fifth stage, or even when I landed into the fifth stage of grief, which was acceptance, and I worked my way through the process, occasionally I would get to a place where I would just be watching TV or watching something, or just doing some work, and just all of a sudden, just tears just start coming down my face, just randomly, completely unprovoked. And I had to really pause and take a step back, and I realized that unprovoked crying is the remnants of the depression phase of grieving, or the depression stage, rather, of grieving. Got to be careful with that. Wow. I'm sorry to hear that, Miss Latanya. I mean, I get it. I get it. It can be completely unprovoked. It can be completely random. You can see something on TV that has nothing to do with your situation, and it just touches your heart, and you just find yourself bursting out into tears. And people ask you what's wrong. I don't know what's wrong with me. Depression. Depression looks like random bouts of crying that are oftentimes unprovoked. Now, listen, y'all, I'm not beating you up. That ain't a bad thing. It's a part of the phase. You have to go through it. We're talking about grieving, right? So I'm not giving you these phases to hurt you or harm you, but more so to let you know where you are on the spectrum. Not the spectrum, Lord, I can't say that. Not on the spectrum, but through the stages. How do you get out of it? Go back to what we talked about in the beginning. We got to learn how to focus in the present. It's that simple. Focus in the present. Make your diagram of priorities. Stay in the lines. Don't color outside the lines or eat outside the lines. Focus on the top 5 things that you have going on and stay in the present. Okay? And that goes a long way in eventually slowing the tears. Are you going to build Rome back in one day? No. It's going to take some time. But eventually, over time, you'll be able to control that better. Okay? Stage 5. And then one more point, and then I'm done. Stage 5, acceptance. Stage 5, acceptance. Yes, I'm going to leave this up. If y'all support the show, support the show. The ways to support are there. Doc, why are you pressing us so hard on supporting? So that y'all can invest in your own rescue. Acceptance. What does acceptance look like? Acceptance looks like contentment. I should have wrote these definitions or symptoms in red. Duh. What was I thinking? Acceptance looks like contentment. Y'all, what does it mean to be content? To be content does not mean to be satisfied. To be content does not mean you like the position you're in. To be content does not mean you want to stay in the position that you're in. When a person says, I am being content, ooh. When a person says, I am being content, what that person is really saying is that I am okay. To be content means to be okay. That's all it means. It doesn't mean you like where you are. It means you are okay where you are. So when you're going through these phases of grief or stages of grief and you get to acceptance, you get to a place where you say, you know what? I'm content right here. Doesn't mean I like my situation, but it means I'm okay with where I am in this situation. Okay? To be content means to be okay. Atlanta, those of you that are in Atlanta that are coming to my tour on Saturday, I promise you, I'm not going to get you sick. I'm going to medicate up somehow tomorrow while I'm traveling. I got some business to take care of when I get in town. I'm going to find me a sauna somewhere. I'm going to get some rest and I'm going to be medicated. I'm going to be ready to go Saturday. I promise you. I'm going to find me a lamb chop somewhere too, by the way, because I like to eat. I'm sick, but I want some food. Lamb chops. You got any recommendations? DM me. A good lamb chop in Atlanta. But I promise you, I'm going to be prepared for Saturday. And if you're in the Georgia area, I hope you'll come out. Y'all, to accept something and to be content means to be okay. It doesn't mean you're satisfied. Let me give you another thing that goes with acceptance. It's the big P word. You ready? That word, you at peace. When you're content, you're also at peace, which means you may not even like a situation. You might not even like the thing that you're having to grieve, that you've lost the thing that you are losing. No, that you've lost the thing that you are grieving. Yeah. That you've lost the thing that you're grieving. You may not like it, but you've got peace with it. Acceptance absolutely looks like peace. I knew I had properly grieved certain situations in my life when I found peace about it. It didn't mean that I liked it. It just simply mean I finally reached a place where I accepted it. And with that acceptance came resolve. And I like to put that in parentheses because that's an easy way to understand what peace looks like. The word resolve. You just have a resolve about the situation. Okay? Give you a third trait. And then I want to explain something to you about these stages. Give you one final announcement. And I'm going to get off this call. And either pack tonight, or I'm going to get up early in the morning and pack before my flight. Another final symptom of acceptance. You ready? It's one of my favorite words, y'all. Stability. You're going to know you properly grieved anything when mentally you're stable. Emotionally, you're stable. Spiritually, because sometimes when you lose stuff, you lose yourself spiritually too. But spiritually, you're stable. Physically, you're stable. You've gotten out the bed, you've changed clothes, you're showering, you're taking care of yourself, you're working out. Back again, you're putting focus and emphasis back on your health and wellness. When financially, you're stable. That word stability, I want you to put in parentheses next to that word, the word center. You're going to know you've accepted something when you get recentered. When you can think about the thing that you lost, but stay centered. When you can think about the thing that you lost, but stay at peace. When you can think about the thing that you lost and remain okay. That's when you're going to know you've accepted it. Now, let me talk to you about these phases. With these phases, you I want y'all to draw arrows like I'm drawing them here. Let me show you. I started at the top and just drew an arrow down to this one and into this one and into this one, back up, back up, back up. I want you to draw some arrows here, down the middle. Back up. Like that. Y'all see that? See, I have those arrows going everywhere here. Some counselors, therapists, coaches will tell you, hey, when you go through grief, you got to go through in this order. I don't agree with that. When you experience a loss, you don't have to start at denial. You can start at depression. When you experience a loss, you don't have to start at denial. You can start at bargaining what ifs. You've been cheated on before? Or somebody left you or walked away or walked out on you? You may not start at denial. It's obvious that it's going on. You might jump right into anger. I can't believe they did that to me. When it comes to denial or anger, I'm sorry, when it comes to grief, you can start at either one of those first four phases. I've had clients that have lost children unexpectedly. that started denial. They just can't believe that. It's almost like, I've had clients say to me, it took me months to just really come to grips with the fact, like getting insurance policies in and having to pick out tombstones. And that's when it started to hit, literally weeks and months after the fact. Up to that point, they were just completely in denial. There are certain things that you grieve that the initial reaction is just going to be shock. Ain't no way this is true. There's certain things that are going to happen that they're true, and you're going to skip the denial and anger, and you're going to go right to depression. It's an immediate, deep sadness. Okay? So when it comes to processing grief, you can start at any one of these levels. But this is where also me and a lot of other counselors, therapists, coaches disagree. I am of the opinion that when you get to acceptance, you don't go back to the other phases. And this is where probably me and some of your counselors, therapists, coaches are going to disagree. And that's fine. Let me tell you why I believe that. Because if you get to acceptance and you say, Doc, I'm okay that it happened. I have peace that it happened. And my emotions are stable concerning the thing that occurred. How you going to go from peace to anger? Oh my God. You can't go from peace to anger in the context of grieving a loss. Well, Doc, yes, you can, because some days you have a good day and some days you have a bad day. Perfect. So if some days you have a good day and some days you have a bad day, didn't we describe that when we called those mood swings? Ain't that interesting? So the counselors, therapists, coaches that try to make that argument, yeah, well, you can, because some days you can have mood swings. No. Because if you go from being happy one day to then pissed the next day over the thing that you're grieving, you're just having a mood swing. That ain't nothing but a symptom of anger. You just have not figured out how to release and let go and just be one mood. No, you're not going to acceptance and then going to pop back up here and bargaining. Why would you go into a bunch of what ifs if you got peace about what occurred? Now, I'm going to tell y'all I'm going to tell you the type of people who like to believe you can go to acceptance. I've heard people, I've had clients tell me this. I've had clients tell me that counselors, coaches, therapists have told them, yeah, you can bounce from all 5 phases. I'm going to tell you people that really resonate with that the most, people who don't want to process all of these phases, or people who want this unlimited amount of time to just bounce back and forth. Go back to my introduction. If it's been 18 years and you processing the loss of a boyfriend, and your best response to me is you just got varying emotions that have you between all 5 phases, you're not doing no work. Oh my God. I'm telling you to your face, you're not doing the work. And if you've been following me for long enough, you know that not all work is created equal. Talking to a therapist ain't doing the work. Talking to a counselor ain't doing the work. Doing the work is a whole lot more than that. And I know you folks that want to be coddled and going back and forth through these phases, you hate that. And that's fine. That's not doing the work. Because you're not going to tell me you have found peace and contentment and stability. You are centered concerning the thing that you've lost, but then you go right back up here and you mad. No. You're having a mood swing. You're still in anger, and that's okay. Process that stage fully so you can go on to the next stage. Y'all, this makes sense at all? That makes sense? Listen, final quick announcement. I got to go. I have not packed. Oh, boy, it's late. I got to get up early in the morning. Second announcement, course number 2 is live. My second course. I do a spring course every year. And my second course for this year is called Spring Cleaning and Healing. Spring Cleaning and Healing. And it is live. And let me tell you something. It has 5 of the toughest sessions, topics that I've ever taught in a course. It is live right now. If you took the New Year, New Me reset at the beginning of the year, there is a promo code that I gave you that you can use. Use your promo code, Spring Cleaning and Healing. You know the promo code. If you were on that 3-day reset, you had a promo code. Use it so that you can get a special discount. Okay? I've got 5 incredible courses that I'm teaching. That is live. It is going to be every Saturday in April and the first Saturday in May. That's 5 consecutive weeks for all of you that are saying, Doc, I want to get on your calendar. My calendar is closed for new clients. It may not open again, honestly, until typically it opens again around May or June. I'm just going to see how this batch is doing. So far, so good. Some of these clients are really rolling. But May, June-ish might be the next time my calendar opens, if then. So this is 5 consecutive Saturdays with me. Okay. If you missed the New Year one, jump into this one. The New Year one was only 3 nights, 60 minutes apiece. This one is 5 90-minute courses. The value on this course is way more expensive than what I'm charging. Way more. So check it out. And I would love to have you during the month of April and that first Saturday in May. Okay. The ebook, 50 times 5. That's what it's called. 50, there's an X in the number 5, but it's really pronounced 50 times 5. And it's 250 ways to measure healthy connections. Is up and rolling. Go get it. Perfect gift. Time for Valentine's. Those of you that are blowing up, you evaluating people, you interviewing people. I just gave you 250 questions. You're welcome. That you can use. Atlanta. I am going to be in Atlanta Saturday for stop 1 of my tour. I promise you, I'm not going to be coughing in your face. I promise you, I'm gonna if it's that bad, I will make sure that the volunteers, we have 10 feet of separation and a mask, me. But I'm gonna be there and I'm looking forward to it and can't wait to see you all this Saturday in Atlanta for stop 1 of my self-awareness tour. I will be in Phoenix in March. I will be in Houston in April. All of you that are in Houston, I want to see you there. All right. And then I will be in DC in May, New York in June, Chicago in July. And more cities to come. All right. I appreciate y'all. Support the show. I'm going to check to see. I hope you guys support it. I really want to leave this up. If you did, I'll post this on my Instagram story, my Facebook story, and my TikTok story. I'll also post my compartment diagram. This will be a good conversation piece for you at work. This little plate that we created, your cookout plate, I'll post that as well. You guys support the show. It goes a long way to supporting the work that we do here, Inspire Nation. Y'all have a good night. I'm exhausted. It's been a long one. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace and blessings.